My, oh my, oh my, what a litany of premier quarterback matchups we have this week. It all starts off down in South Beach with the Bills and the Dolphins, but did the running back shine in this one?
Bucks and Lions preview of the past playoff battle. Can the Bake Show bake again in Motown?
All these quarterbacks and two of the youngest ones battled out Sunday night. CJ Stroud, Caleb Williams. Will these two give us a preview of Super Bowl matchups for years to come and future supremacy at the quarterback position?
Burrow and Mahomes, Chiefs and the Bengals. Can the Bengals get on track after that surprising loss in New England while the Chiefs continue their drive for a three-peat?
Week 2, Sunday Scaries with Buccs McGee. We'll break down the Thursday Nighter and take you through all the Sunday games right here. You got no words?
Thursday nights, man. Like, the first year, we were like, oh, the games are horrible. Like, the teams are bad. We finally get, then they finally figure it out, get the schedule right, and then the games just still are bad. Got to give Buffalo their credit, though. Got to give Buffalo their props. First half, hey, doing what you got to do.
The curse of Thursday, indeed.
Oh, Lord.
So, I mean, we're like as far as like the season's concerned, a lot of people are big on both these teams in this division, especially. I mean, obviously the Jets are getting all the headlines, but the Jets have a significant injury to come off of. So these two were the ones that were really duking it out last season, and they should be the ones to get a lot of the favoritisms, for lack of a better word, as far as the division this year. So, and certainly we started this off, and Josh Allen, Tua, we figured, okay, this is going to be a shootout, bet the over. We're going to have touchdowns going back and forth. And let's start with the Dolphins because Tua, he's had a little bit of a rough one in this one so far.
It's rough. 2 interceptions in the first half. The first one, I can't blame him. Off the shoulder pad kind of thing. It happens. The second one, I don't know where he was throwing it, but this pass offense is just really, really discombobulated. They've been able to run the ball somewhat. Achane's looked decent. He's been able to move the ball, but the passing part of this offense is non-existent. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's still, the whole, we don't really play our starters in the preseason and they're still working kinks out, but this passing game is horrible.
And it wasn't just the picks too, because a couple plays before that tip drill pick, he overthrew Tyreek Hill, he had a guy on him, but there was enough separation where it's Tyreek. You throw it up, he's gonna catch it, he's gonna take it to the house. So it's like even that one, it's like, how do you miss Tyreek Hill on that? It's just adding to the whole Tua's off tonight.
Well, it's we sit there and everyone, you try to find a reason to, elevate Tua, but like he throws a decent deep ball, but it's nothing really pretty. So I don't. Plus, it's Tyreek too, so I can kind of give him a pass in the sense that sometimes you throw it because you think you can catch anything. So I think you're kind of spoiled in that manner too. But even besides that, even the basic, 5 to 10 yarders are just not there. Like there's just something in this offense that just isn't clicking tonight.
Yeah, and so before we get into the star of the first half on Buffalo's side, it's funny, like all the attention headlines in this one were about the quarterbacks, and the running backs have really been the star. On Miami's side, Achane, Buffalo really has had an answer for him, so it's surprising that they're still trying to get Tua to force the ball down the field when they don't have an answer on the ground.
Well, Achane's a little beat up, so they've played him a little more than I thought they would. So I get, you want the balance. You want the balance because teams are scared of your wide receiver, so that's going to open up your pass a bit. And Buffalo is a little nicked up, in the middle there. So, yeah, you would think they would try to run a little more, maybe with Wilson and some other guys. But, the play calling in Miami really just hasn't been there tonight.
Yeah, I was expecting him to be on a little bit of a snap count as well, just because of his history last season with the injuries. But it certainly doesn't look like it. They're running that kid into the ground.
Right now he's their only real source of offense because they can't complete passes for anything. So,
Yeah.
a couple end arounds here and there, but Achane's the guy right now.
Yeah, and Tyreek, I guess Buffalo just must be playing really well against him because the only success they've really had in the passing game has been to Waddle, not even Tyreek.
Yeah, Waddle's had a couple catches. I think teams are willing to say, okay, Waddle, you beat us, not Tyreek, because Tyreek is just that dynamic and stretches the field that much more. So, you're like, all right, Waddle, you're going to be that guy. But right now, it's more Achane than anything.
And on Buffalo's side, obviously, it's similar enough. The quarterbacks get the attention. Josh Allen's one of the most explosive quarterbacks in the league. But it's been the James Cook show, and granted, one of his touchdowns was via the pass from Josh Allen. But James Cook, and I stand there because I remember drafting him in fantasy his rookie year, and he fumbled the ball so many times, he got himself benched, and I just would stare at him on my bench in pure infuriation. And now he's turned himself into a viable RB1 option in the league right now, and he's having an incredible first half. Three touchdowns. The one not too far before the end of the half where he just took it off half the field after the Dolphins crapped their pants on fourth down. James Cook, I guess, is a legit workhorse now.
Well, this is where he's starting. Like, let's be honest. If he wasn't here, where else would he be starting? There may be one or two teams that he possibly could start, but he's found his niche in Buffalo, and he's not going to screw this up. This team right now, it's they're playing tough. It's not pretty ball, but they've got Superman. Josh Allen, and when you're the running back, you take those opportunities, and he's really cashing in. So all the credit to him. 60 yards, 3 touchdowns. Hey.
Is Josh Allen, he used the moniker Superman? Is he really like the next? I'm trying to think of a quarterback from years past. They're not. I don't want to necessarily say Peyton Manning because obviously Peyton Manning didn't have the wasn't the threat on the ground, but like McNabb maybe in his heyday, where you had a team that was kind of like really without the quarterback on the lesser half of talent wise in the league, but the quarterback can just elevate them and win a game by himself. Is Allen is Allen at the point where he is just this unstoppable force just in of his own?
Yeah, I think so. He is a better version of Cam Newton. With the physicality, the running, dropping the shoulder and such, and that's great when you don't get hurt. But they showed in the game earlier, he's got 2 fingers taped up. He bobbled a snap earlier, so there are drawbacks to that style of play. But when he's on, like, he's 250 pounds and he imposes as well. So I think with Allen, with this team, the way it's constructed, he's going to have to carry him. I think he's got the talent. I just don't know how far he can carry him.
No fraudulent motel this year, at least not yet.
No, he passed those keys over to the Falcons, and the Falcons said, thank you.
So, well, that is the Monday nighter. So we'll get to that on Sunday after we talk up all these games. But let's get into Sunday. And the first one is one that if we go back to way back when in April when the schedule was released, one of the games that got leaked early. Chiefs hosting the Cincinnati Bengals. This obviously is a playoff rematch from years past. A few times in the postseason, Burrow was actually probably is still the last quarterback to win an Arrowhead in the playoffs, right? Um,
Hmm.
so I mean, and they come in here and they're a little bit different. You have the Bengals, as you noted in the open, very walking wounded a little bit as far as
Hmm.
taking one on the chin to the lowly Patriots, and the the Chiefs. This is like a different type of Chiefs. We saw last season when they went on to win the Super Bowl that they kind of retooled themselves in ways that they don't need Patrick to be this incredible force in order to win games. They win in other ways. They win defensively. They win on the ground. They win without a real true number one wide receiver. So what's the expectation going into this one uh, for like the Bengals have a snowball chance in hell, or the Chiefs kind of new look strategy with playing anyone, let alone the Bengals?
I don't think they have a chance. I don't think there is a snowball's chance. Burrow, I don't think is 100% healthy. I think the wrist is still bothering him. The run game is suspect. You basically got rid of one of the better running backs in the league, just, jettisoned him off. We don't know if Chase is really into the game. Let's be honest, he's still waiting for a contract. So let's say all of a sudden, in a day or two, hamstring, or he's just not feeling right. So if he doesn't play, they definitely don't have a chance. This team is just not there. They're not that Super Bowl team. They're not that cohesive. I don't think they've got a chance. I really don't.
So how bad? So let's put a number on it. I guess at that point, well, how bad is it going to be? Like, are we going to expect to see the Chiefs of old come up and they drop a 40 spot and they win by 25 or 30 points, or is it going to be a little bit slower and uglier because of the new way the Chiefs play, and maybe they kind of tack on a few scores in garbage time?
It's probably going to be one of those things where the Chiefs will jump out quick, and then after that, you probably see Mahomes and everybody, all the starters on the bench by the mid fourth quarter, maybe. But yeah, I could see it being like a 38-14 kind of game. I don't trust this Cincinnati offense. After what they showed week one, and believe me, other teams kind of had some issues, but let's be realistic here. Joe Burrow, Burrowhead, blah, blah, blah. After a while, that stuff falls stale and doesn't matter. Like, you're hanging your hat on a game from years ago. It at this point, it doesn't matter now. Yes, you are the only other guy, one of two guys to beat Mahomes in the playoffs. The other guy's retired,
Ding.
right? Super Bowl. So like, let's be real. After a point, like the shine on that disappears. It's okay. So what have you done for me lately? And right now, the highlight is you dyed your hair and your wide receiver wants money, probably may not play. Your team is in shambles. So yeah, this is a mess. If they were to pull this out, I would be shocked.
As we coined him last week, Cody Burrow, the Cincinnati Nightmare.
Yeah, Cody Burrow better figure something out real quick.
So normally this isn't the type of matchup that we just move on to, but there's certainly not much more of a horse to beat on this one. And I mean, I guess that could be the final point. How deflated is America going to be watching this game that's a national air, and it's probably going to be a dud.
Oh, they're gonna honestly. The America should expect it after week one. The America's probably saying, "All right, great. 38-14. All right, whatever." Now at that point, you're just watching it for fantasy value because there's no excitement. Like I said, unless literally the Chiefs just throw up a dud, Cincinnati's toast.
So let's move on to a game now that I know has a particular vested interest with your team, and you're going on the road back to the scene of the crime from the postseason last year, the divisional round,
Mm-hmm.
and it's obviously a different Detroit team. Tampa kind of made a lot of Tampa's improvements in the offseason were just keeping their players.
Mm-hmm.
And Detroit's made some tweaks with their biggest flaw last season that we've discussed numerous times in the past. So, what's your expectation as far as going in to play the Lions again with effectively the same squad against a team that's maybe shown up some weaknesses that were a problem the last time you played them?
It's basically going to come down to Bucks have got to be able to run the ball, and the Lions have to be able to defend the pass. That's what I think it really comes down to. If Baker plays like he did against Washington, if he's able to have that kind of success against the Lions, this game's going to be a shootout. But the Bucks have got to be able to run the ball. Last 2 years, dead last in rushing. There were some glimpses last week, but they got to be able to run the ball. And the D line for Tampa has got to be able to get some penetration against that Detroit offensive line. They're the best O line in the league.
Yeah.
Let's be real. So it's one of those things where something's got to give. I think the game will be competitive. So that's all you're asking for. When we did, our schedule, I gave Detroit the win. I did, but that's one of those things where in the back of your head you're like, you never know.
Yeah,
so,
it's like a flip a coin and give the edge to the home team or something like that because they're very close.
It's one of those things where if they lose by less than a touchdown, then I don't think anything bad from it. It just means that they're just that much closer to it.
Yeah.
Detroit, played a tough game last week against the Rams. So we'll find out. I think it'll be entertaining. I definitely think it's going to be more entertaining than that Bengals Chiefs fiasco.
I know. I wish I had that one on national air. You don't have to worry about that because it's local, but I wish I was able to watch it. If it comes down to if the difference really let's say Baker can sling it, and of course Goff's out there doing his thing with all their weapons. So if it comes down to the difference being the lines, the big uglies, and who controls possession with the running backs. Obviously, like you said, Tampa's improved the running game, but Detroit has that two-headed monster where they can run both of them and keep their ground game very fresh. I mean, who has a better edge in that arena, in that ballpark?
You have to give it to Detroit right now. Tampa has to prove that they can handle that O-line. So as of right now, you have to give it to Detroit for sure. So it's going to be one of those things where if Detroit imposes their will, it's going to be tough. And then it becomes a situation of, okay, as long as Tampa's O-line can keep Baker, upright and, he can throw the ball, then they've got a chance.
I know you're just being unbiased, but it's weird to hear you be verbally down on the Tampa defensive front, a strength of several years past.
As long as we can try, as long as, like I said, if we can average 4+ yards at rush, then there's a chance. It's just what it comes down to. Got to be able to run the ball. That's what it's going to come down to. So we'll find out and see. I'm excited for it.
Which of Detroit's options to you is the most critical for Tampa to shut down?
I think you stop the run game. I think you force Goff to throw the ball. Goff's a solid quarterback for sure, but that run game really gets their offense going. So I think if you can control the run game somewhat and force Goff to do some things, that he's not used to doing, I think that opens it up and gives you a better shot.
Quick pop in here from the comments. Sam from Short and Stout down in Australia. Good day, mate.
Oh, and, nice.
I have some doubts whether his team is going to have much success this week against the Niners, but at least they're at home for it.
Hey, you know what? You win week 1, you go in, and you never know. You never know.
Yeah, slightly different handicap than versus the Giants, but it is football. Any given Sunday, as the famous Al Pacino.
Exactly. If CMC doesn't play, you never know.
Yeah. So I mean, what let's kind of wrap up the Tampa Detroit rematches as far as like what would be a kind of moral victory if Tampa cannot come out on the winning side of this. What would be kind of a moral victory for you as far as a score and things they did well?
If it ends up being like a 27-23 type game, I'm fine with that. I think if the run game improves, like I said, if they can average, over four yards a run and just kind of show some improvement in that area, then I think that's what it is. The run game is going to be critical. I think we can pass the ball. There's no doubt Baker can do that. It's the run game. If the run game can develop and really start to show up this year, then I think they really become a viable threat in the NFC.
So we move on to Sunday night now, and they don't historically have the issues the Thursday night does with competition. um,
No, those are usually the really good games.
yeah. Last week we had the Lions and the Rams, and that was entertaining. It was competitive, even though it was a bit ugly. This week we've got a kind of a premier matchup of sorts. Two young quarterbacks, two young teams, or at least for the most part, save Keenan Allen, um, who might not even play. Who knows? Shocker of all shockers. The Texans and the Bears. I mean, if CJ Stroud can continue, he wasn't the total CJ of last year against my Colts last week, but he wasn't bad. If he can continue his success from last season into this one, and Caleb Williams can shake off whatever that was last week against the Titans, despite the win, um, if he can kind of shake off that performance and be a little more consistent and prove the hype of being the number one pick, obviously this could be a potential Super Bowl matchup down the road. So I mean, what are your kind of expectations with these two young studs the first time they meet?
All right, I can't call Caleb Williams a stud because he hasn't shown me anything to be a stud. Like I said, the guy was great in college, but I think I think after week one he realized that wow, the game's different here. Everybody's faster. The guys that you're able to run away from and be all magical in the backfield, those guys up here in the league. You can't do that. You can't pull those moves. Like these guys are just as fast, if not faster. I also think the Bears are going to kind of sit there and while this game's going on, can sit there and kind of say, you know what, we could have had CJ. Let's be honest. The way the draft and everything went, they could have had CJ Stroud.
Yeah.
So now you're sitting there saying, okay, well, we're happy with Caleb. They're not going to sit there and be like, wow, this sucks. This is what we could have had. This is what we had. Now, like I said, Caleb's a rookie. It's going to take time. But, before he took his first snap, everybody's like, he's going to be the first Bears quarterback to throw for 4,000 yards, and he's going to do all this. If he plays anything like he did last week, you're going to be lucky to see 2,000 yards. So I think you need
Nick Wright.
You know what? Nick Wright put the Bucs in the playoffs this year. She'll put some respect on that man's name. I can tolerate him this year. I can tolerate him. My boy Nick Wright. But no. So I think you have to temper the expectation because you've already handed the guy the key to the city. You've already put him in the playoffs. You're assuming he's going to be this generational talent. Well, let him develop. Because right now that defense is going to have to carry him, and they're going to have to be able to run the ball. Now, if he turns around and throws for 280, 290, a couple scores, then all right, then he shook the rust off and he's ready to go. But I've got to see something, and it's the Texans. Now, if he was playing the Panthers, I'd say, oh man, he's going to light them up. I'm like, all right, perfect bounce back game.
Yeah.
But that Texans defense is going to tighten up everything that they kind of leaked and such against the Colts, against your boys. Miko's going to say, all right, this is what we did wrong. We can't do this against Chicago. And you're going to find out because Stroud is smart enough not to make mistakes. If he's got to throw the ball away, he's going to throw the ball away. He's not going to put them in a position to lose the game. So it's going to be interesting to see. But yeah, Caleb's going to have to really show some stuff or people are going to start saying, is he really what we thought he was?
And to your point about giving Caleb time to develop, I mean, even Stroud last season, we didn't really see. I think I could even argue that maybe you were the catalyst to him turning into the Stroud we saw at the end of the year when you saw him live, because the first, I don't know, quarter, third, half, maybe even half of the season, CJ Stroud he wasn't that great. I mean, he wasn't horrible, but he looked like a young QB that was a game manager. They kind of really didn't take the training wheels off him until the season got late in.
No, exactly. It was one of those things where, he was showing glimpses here and there, but then yeah, once I saw him there in Houston against Tampa, and he just sat in that pocket and grew up right before my eyes. Just like a little boy, he just grew up before my eyes. So now you're getting, Caleb, this is prime time, man. This isn't like, the 1 o'clock on Sunday. This is prime time. This is it. So it's time to show the world why the Bears took you where they did.
And to that point, I mean, here we just talked about how America could be very disappointed about the Chiefs and Bengals being a bit of a dud. Based on this conversation, America could be very disappointed and go to bed early for Monday morning, with this one being a bit of a dud if the Texans kind of come out and pop Caleb in the mouth.
At this point, America's got to hang their hat on Tampa and Detroit, the big show. He won't let you down in his time slot.
Yeah.
But like I said, I hope like I said, I hope for an entertaining game. I really do. So we'll see what happens.
After the way Buffalo, Miami's going right now, it's could be a week of blowouts, I guess.
Wow, for anyone who took Tua on your fantasy team, I'm sorry. You're probably negative 32 points at this point. Just let it go, man. There's always next week. Always next week.
Well, next week, speaking of last week, there were a couple squads that didn't look the best. We talked about them a little last week. We had a lot of fun talking about them. The Cleveland Browns, with Deshaun Watson looking very, very like the Browns maybe should have wished that he decided to not play 3 hours before the game. And the Jaguars, after they started out hot against the Dolphins and choked away that victory, now they both sit at 0-1. This is going to start off a little bit of a fun conversation without going back and forth. But we'll start off with this one, because as far as saying who needs a win more for 0-1 clubs, for these two, it's really hard to pick one over the other.
Wow. If I had to pick one, I'm going to say Cleveland. I think Cleveland needs it more. Because let's be honest, if you look at the state of the franchise, what you gave up for that quarterback. Like, it wasn't like you drafted him or this and that. Like, you literally gave this man $200+ million guaranteed, said, yeah, we want you, yada yada. Now you've got issues, court issues coming up again. He looks nothing like the quarterback that you traded for. He's absolutely a mess. You're gonna have to hang your hat on your defense and your run game, because this guy can't throw for a lick of split. It's a bad situation in Cleveland. And honestly, if they lose this week, get ready for Jameis. Get ready for the Jameis Winston show. Because at that point, it's no worse. Why not? So, yeah, I think Cleveland, a lot of people were talking about them being a possible Super Bowl contender. Now you're just hoping you can be 500 and be in the Mike Tomlin Bowl and be the greatest 9-8 team in the league.
That's and they're Cleveland. That's it. That's such a so. What's worse as far as the the Watson situation really imploding? Is it worse from a personnel perspective? Like, this guy is not what we thought we bargained for, or is it worse from a financial perspective because he does have all this money? It's like the hardest pill to swallow to have to say, all right, go to the bench.
That's what it is. You basically sacrificed your franchise for the next couple of years on this guy. That's what you did. What you gave up to get him, plus the money you're paying him, you basically set your franchise back 3 to 4 years. If you look at that trade and look what Houston did with those picks, that's why Houston's in the conversation about possibly being the team that's going to overtake Kansas City. Like, that's what you did. You basically said, here you go, Houston. Here it is. Here are the keys for you to become possibly the heir apparent to the Chiefs, while we will sit here and toil in a bottomless money pit known as Deshaun Watson. That's what this is.
Bottomless money pit.
That's what it is. Like literally, like what are you gonna do? Like, at this point, your other option is Jameis Winston. Now, let's be honest, Jameis wasn't exactly the best until he got his LASIK, and then he started playing a little better. But the guy's got an arm. He's got some fire. Like, honestly, he's a fiery guy. I give the guy credit. You know, he'll at least compete. He'll compete and at least give something for Cleveland to cheer about. Don't know if they're gonna win with him.
I mean, you've got Judy, you've got Amari Cooper. If they can get any kind of balance out of the run game with Ford or Chubb whenever he comes back, I mean, all you need is someone that's got an arm and can throw it down the field. Really, just get it down there and get it down there accurately. You'll score something with those two out there.
And and you've got that defense, so he'll keep you in the game. You know, you have a puncher's chance. I think right now you have a better chance with Jameis Winston than you do with Deshaun Watson.
And that's something that I don't know about you, but I never thought we'd be saying.
And what's funny
5
is,
years ago.
and what's funny is all the memes and the videos like on TikTok this week were of like Cleveland fans trying to call Baker saying, "We made a mistake."
Yeah.
You know, like the one they use from The Hangover when there's like, "Oh man, we effed up."
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all, you guys threw Baker Mayfield away, and now look at it. Yeah, Cleveland, huh?
And
Good
that
move.
Baker wasn't there under Stefanski. So, we saw what Stefanski was going to do with the basically dead arm Joe Flacco last season. Imagine what he could have done with Baker.
Exactly. But look, like at this point, maybe Zach Wilson throws it and ask for Zach Wilson. Maybe Zach Wilson can play you some 500 ball.
The MILF Hunter.
Because no one's taking that contract, so you're not trading Deshaun. He's going to sit there on the bench.
Right.
No one's taking that contract.
Yeah. And to your point on the MILF Hunter, I mean, Bo Nix is the starter now, and he's not going to relinquish that unless he just bottoms out completely. So,
That's why
he's there for the picking.
That's why in football no one likes guaranteed contracts. Like in baseball, yeah, you can pay a guy guaranteed whatever, but it is what it is, and you just move on. In football, teams don't want to do that, and a lot of teams were pissed at Cleveland about this when they did this deal. They were like, "Oh, all this guaranteed money, blah blah blah." Now you're reaping what you sowed.
And to your previous point about Cleveland second guessing the Watson trade as far as giving all the picks to Houston, we just talked about how the Bears could sit there having second doubts because if they didn't send that pick to Carolina, they could have taken Stroud. But that we're almost in the same situation with Cleveland now. It's like, well, shoot, if we didn't trade for this waste of space and give them all this money, we could have had Stroud maybe.
Exactly, but at least with a rookie, it's like, all right, we've got this money. We know after so many years he's gone, it falls off. Yeah, we got to go back to the drawing board and hope there's some quarterback somewhere. But your financial hit is a lot less than this Watson fiasco.
We should probably talk about the other half in this game at some point. So why do you think this isn't as important for the Jags? I mean, we just played the hypothetical of Peterson possibly being on a hot seat. Why do you think it's not as important for the Jags to get this done?
I think the Jags have the ability to bounce back. I think, quarterback situation right off the bat is a lot better. I think the franchise is just in a better place where I think if they were to lose again, they would be able to bounce back. Yeah, 0-2 isn't the best way to go about things or whatever, but I think they have the ability to bounce back.
Maybe that's even what they need to kind of right the ship, so to speak, because we've seen Jacksonville in the Trevor Lawrence era get off to a hot start and then they kind of bottom out, and they can't like really they can't like kind of recapture the fire that they had from earlier parts of past seasons. So maybe they almost need to start off in a hole in order to fight back and prove that they can do it, they belong, what have you.
That could be it. But it's also a situation where if it continues and they end up 1-4, 1-5, then I think you're going to start hearing the whispers about a new voice being needed in the locker room. So it's, sometimes you got to get your teeth kicked in a couple times and then, okay, you're ready to go. But if it continues at that point,
Yeah,
time to move on. So it's going to be interesting to see, but I think they bounce back. I think they've got the people in that locker room and such that they'll be all right.
bring back Jack Del Rio. He's been without a head coach for so long.
You,
He was
you know,
like
he can rally them.
yes. So let's stick with the theme as far as who needs a win more, because there are a few other matchups of 0-1 clubs going against each other, and the one we're not going to discuss, I'll just say it right off the bat. I kind of like the Raiders going into the season. I don't think they stand a snowball's chance against the Ravens, so I think we could just kind of move on past that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Lamar bounces back, and yeah, this one might be a couple, Uncle Rico highlights, but yeah, I think Baltimore handles this.
So we'll start off with my team. 0-1, tough luck loss against Houston. The Packers, someone had to lose that game in Sao Paulo, and of course it winds up being an even more bitter pill because Jordan Love uh, sprains his MCL and he's going to be out for a few weeks. Bringing in the immortal Malik Willis, who the Colts should have at least somewhat familiarity with, being a backup in Tennessee in the recent years, last couple of years, whatever the case may be. So who needs this win more, Indy or the Packers?
Wow.
And let me just preference this, playing devil's advocate. If the Packers go 0 for Malik before Jordan comes back, that's a hell of a hole for Jordan to come out of.
I think the Colts need it just because they want to keep pace in the division. I don't think it's oh my gosh, if we lose, that's it. I think they're strong enough where they're going to put some wins together. You could say the Packers, because especially if everyone else in the division loses, then they can kind of get right back into it and such. So it's tough. I don't think neither absolutely needs it, but if I had to pick one, I'm gonna say the Colts.
Yeah, and to that point for us, obviously Houston won. They beat us. And they're again the Chicago team that as we previously spoke about, that Caleb might not be ready to go right away, and he might get kind of shelled in that one. So we definitely don't want to fall back 0-2 if Houston is 2-0.
No, exactly. Because if you're sitting there and being legit and saying, okay, fine, our way to the playoffs is a possible wild card. Like, we don't know if we're going to take the division, so wild card's where it's at. Looking at the AFC landscape, there's going to probably be a lot of teams that are going to be grabbing for wild card spots. Like, it's just, I think it's going to be a wild race towards the end of the year. So I think it's key, you grab your wins while you can. I think the Colts are going to be competitive. I think I can see them winning 8 to 9 games easy. I think it's just going to be, games like this you really want to win, because this is the kind of competition you're going to see come playoff time. You're measuring yourself up, so this is going to be an important lesson.
Especially with, as we just talked about, with the mess Cleveland is. If Jacksonville can get a win, then they're back to 500. And then the next team we're going to discuss, the Tennessee Titans. They have a very interesting matchup. If they can pull that one out, they would be 1-1. But as of now, they are 0-1, as well as their opponents, the Jets. Welcome Aaron Rodgers into Nashville. And this is a funny one, because that Jets game on Monday night, Rodgers, he wasn't explosive, but he was efficient. Maybe he just needs to be the game manager Rodgers, not the MVP Rodgers. But that defense, Purdy was very, very surgical in picking the defense apart. And the Titans, they should have won that game last week. They should have won. They should have beat the Bears. They
Mm-hmm.
they gave that away to Caleb Williams and the Bears defense on a silver freaking platter. So
Mm-hmm.
who needs this one more? The Jets to keep the tabloids at bay and get their Super Bowl ambitions back on track, or the Titans to kind of be like, all right, we took one on the chin, let's dust off and let's get a W because we proven we should have gotten that one. Let's make good for it and get this one.
It's the Jets. The Jets need it. Let's be honest. Not a lot of people were picking Tennessee to do anything this year. A lot of people had them being last in the division, so it wasn't like anyone had high expectations for Tennessee, except for everyone in that organization and their fan base. Let's be real. If the Jets lose this one, then fire alarms are going off, and especially if that offense doesn't perform, it's going to be, oh well, we basically mortgaged everything and just felt that this was going to be the guy. We thought we were getting Aaron Rodgers, the MVP, blah blah blah. Aaron Rodgers is a 40-year-old man now who can't move in the pocket. He's not going to roll out, flick the wrist. It's not prime Aaron Rodgers anymore. People first need to understand that. As long as he can move around in the pocket, kind of, shuffle, avoid the rush, he should be all right. You want good Aaron Rodgers. If you have good Aaron Rodgers and that defense plays to what it should be, the Jets should be fine. But if that defense that played Monday night shows up in Tennessee, could be some problems.
But isn't there just a small part inside of you that wants to see the wagon blow up in New York and Rodgers have to deal with an angry media?
Oh, he could be considered the greatest of all time, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I don't hear those people anymore. Where are those people? Oh, yeah, he's unbelievable. Mind you, the guy probably throws the prettiest ball in his prime, no doubt about it. Athletically, I'll give you credit. But no, the guy's just an MVP machine. That's all it is. No title, one title. So you go ahead and take that. He's not bringing another one to the Jets. I don't think so. Right, the way he looked on Monday night, that's a sad look for the Jets, and you guys will just be back in mediocrity next year. You basically, Jets fans, this is your year. You either do it or you don't. Yeah. And if Aaron doesn't pull it, get his act together, and start showing some glimpses of the old, it's going to be a long season.
And speaking of another bad performances, I mean, the Jets defense, how hot is Salah's seat? I mean, he's a defensive guy. How hot is his seat? Not only because of the hype with Rodgers and the Super Bowl and all this, but if they have a second consecutive poor defensive performance.
Oh, the seat is hot. There's no doubt about it. I don't know if they would fire him this year. I don't know, but I'll definitely tell you that if they don't make the playoffs, he's not there. He's not there next year. This is it. So I'll tell you though, if that defense is not what it's supposed to be, oh man, the newspaper on Monday, the New York Post is gonna be flaming.
In such a scenario, do you think Rodgers is also out, or do you think Rodgers outlasts Salah by another year?
Oh, I think Rodgers would. I think Rodgers will outlast him. Who else do you have? There's nobody else. What quarterback? What are you gonna try to get Joe Flacco back?
Hey, if you're bad enough, you can try to take the next rookie quarterback that you're gonna ruin.
like there's nobody else. Like, this is your guy. This is who you mortgage the future. You said this is the guy. So here he is. You roll with Aaron.
Yeah. So our final double 0-1 matchup of who needs a win more. Two teams that nobody's really expecting anything of, but the Giants and Washington, the basement of the basement of the NFC East. Again, no one's really expecting anything of these two teams going into the season. But which one of them, Bucks McGee, needs to win more?
Oh, the Giants. The Giants. There's no doubt about it. The Giants are a sinking ship. You wasted $40 million on Danny Dimes. First of all, is he even healthy? Like, let's be honest. Like, is he 100%? Like, or is he like 85? And he just because he doesn't seem like he's I don't know. He just doesn't seem like he's moving like he used to. But besides that, at the end of the day, you said, okay, you let Saquon walk. Said we don't want you. We won't pay three or 4 million, whatever the difference was, to have the guy who's going to help this offense be at least mediocre, at least keep you in some games. You let him walk. You paid Danny Dimes his 40 mil because you were desperate and didn't trust that you'd be able to get a quarterback. So now this is what you have. Washington is a young team. I think they're going to get better as the season goes on. They've got talent. They've got talent in certain spots. I think Daniels is gonna get better. He's got to learn. It's rookie quarterbacks in the NFL. It's a trial by fire, especially when they throw you in week 1. So he's going to learn some things. But I think with his skill set, they're going to be better. Danny Dimes is a lost cause, man. Giants fans, just tank the season. Try to get the number 1 pick.
Yeah, Daniels. That was my other question. Obviously, last week I had a bit of a soapbox on, on his antics on the field, his touchdown celebrations. But based on what you saw, because obviously Washington played your Tampa Bay Bucks, based on what you saw out of Daniels, can he have success against the Giants? And I don't want to say maybe even get a win, but just continue an overall strong resume case as a rookie, based on what you saw last week. Can he do this similar thing or even better against the Giants defense?
I think with his legs, yeah, he can run. There's no doubt he can get out of the pocket and make things happen with his legs. He's just got to complete some passes. He's got to sit there, look downfield, and trust his guys and try to make some throws. I think they can beat I would take Washington over the Giants this week. I would. Like, there's nothing the Giants showed that gives me any kind of hope that says, wow, they're going to turn this around and be a 10-17. They're going to be in the thick of things. It's going to be a hot mess, but I think Daniels, if he can just work on that intermediate passing, keep his helmet on when he scrambles so he doesn't get hurt. I think they're going to be good.
And so that's our week 2 preview. We've got to get back to the South Beach massacre, so we can see how that finishes. But Bucks McGee, we've got quarterback showdowns. We've got a couple highlighted games that we think maybe will turn out in some very disappointing fashion. Give us your final thoughts as week 2 gets going and take us off air, sir.
Usually by week 4, you kind of know what a team is. You can figure it out. You're not writing the tombstones this early, but there's some teams out there that, the season could be over this week. So it's one of those things where, if you're a Giants fan, Jets fan, you guys are on watch now. So hope, your teams can turn it around and put up something for the fan bases to be happy about. Teams on the other end of the spectrum, Detroit, Tampa, it's quality teams. You just, good matchups. You just hope for some good ball. So it's going to be interesting. The end of Sunday, we'll probably have some more to talk about, but it's going to be an interesting week.